Hey guys, Zen here, and today we're bringing you the top 8 decks from the most recent Pokemon TCG Baltimore Regionals and breaking down every single winning deck list in the top 8, as well as going over its usage, starting with that. Out of the top 8 winning decks at the Pokemon TCG Baltimore Regionals, we have 2 Regidragos, 3 Lugia V-Stars, 1 interesting Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon EX, 1 Roaring Moon EX, and then the winner out of all of them, Gardevoir EX. Without further ado, let's jump into the number 8 spot with Ian Robb. Now what I'm going to do is probably go over the best placing deck out of that archetype, which brings us to this 8 spot being Ian Robb's Regidrago deck list, but also our 7 spot right here, Rowan Stazibnow from Canada, both running Regidrago. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this deck archetype, this deck revolves around Regidrago's V-Star Apex Dragon attack, which allows you to copy any Dragon-type Pokemon attack from your discard pile, which is why we have copies like 1 copy of Kyurem here, 1 copy of Dragapult EX, our Goodra, Hisuian Goodra V-Star, as well as our Giratina V-Star. These are all just 1 copies because the goal is to get them into our discard pile. Discarding powerful Dragon-type Pokemon using Regidrago V-Star as a versatile attacker. Then you could utilize cards like your Teal Mask Ogerpon EX's Teal Dance ability to accelerate Grass Energy onto it, and then use things like Energy Switch to get that energy onto your Regidrago V-Star. And now, depending on the situation, you can copy attacks like the Dragapult EX's Phantom Dive for high damage and bench disruption. Or you can go with Hisuian Goodra's V-Star Rolling Iron for defense, or Kyurem's Trifrost that does 110 damage to 3 of your opponent's Pokemon, at the cost of discarding all the energy from that Pokemon. All in all, this is a pretty solid deck that honestly sees the most play in all of tournaments, often winning tournaments as well. But because of that, you'll see that the rest of these decks in today's video were specifically built with that in mind, which is why you see Regidrago placing so low. Still on the top 8 list nonetheless, but still not at the top 4 mark, top 2, or even winning the whole event. Next up is the surprise pull of the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon EX. This deck is something else. This is the 6th spot from Nolan Randall from Canada. Good job to you. And the goal of this Cornerstone control deck is to essentially stall and deny your opponent's attacks. You see with this card right here, the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon, it can't be damaged by Pokemon with abilities thanks to its Cornerstone stance. You pair this with something like your Noivern EX with their Covert Flight to prevent attacks from basic Pokemon. None of these, they're not taking any damage. You kind of stall out, you damage control, damage lock, I guess, your opponent's Pokemon. Then you can use cards like Penny to heal and reset your board while whittling down your opponent's resources, aiming to stop them from taking prize cards while you control the game. Honestly, a very interesting deck and one that I don't mind playing on ladder. Moving on to the 5th spot. Now we do have 3 copies of this, 3 types of Lugia V-Star decks, and we'll go over what this does, but we'll go into more depth into the highest placing Lugia V-Star deck. But essentially, this is the 5th spot, Raul Reddy, as well as the 4th spot for Steven Varesco. Shout out to you guys. They both ran Lugia V-Star decks, and this deck focuses on quickly setting up Archeops in the discard pile right here. You don't have the Priel, you just want this thing in your discard pile. You can do this with things like Ultra Ball. It doesn't really matter how you discard it, you get it into your discard pile, because that enables you for energy acceleration. With Lugia V-Star's Summoning Star ability right here, you can then bench the 2 Archeops, which can then use their own Primal Turbo ability right here to power up a range of attackers like your V-Star Lugia. We got Iron Hands that we can power up. We can power up things like a Blood Moon Ursaluna or even Wordeer V. You can also utilize Lugia V-Star's Tempest Dive for a solid 220 damage and the ability to discard stadium cards when needed, which is pretty strong into this meta and potentially the next meta once the Stellar Crown cards become legal. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Area Zero. But yeah, this deck is pretty solid. Now moving on to the third spot, we have Roaring Moon EX by the Emmett Hurley from US. Now this deck relies on powering up Roaring Moon EX quickly with cards like Earthen Vessel, cards like Dark Patch, and Professor Sada's Vitality. Once powered up, Roaring Moon EX can deal huge damage using Frenzied Gouging to take down opposing Pokemon at the cost of self-damage, or Calamity Storm for 220 damage by discarding a Stadium card. For additional Ancient Synergy though, this deck is also running one copy of the Roaring Moon that has the move Vengeance Fletching that does extra damage based on the number of Ancient cards in your discard pile. And like we said with the Earthen Vessel, Professor Shada's Vitality, means that this Vengeance Fletching can easily become a 100+ damaging move for only 2 Dark Energy. Pretty solid. And then at the number 2 spot, we already talked about the Lugia V-Star, but shout out to you, Sirin Farah from Canada, getting all the way up to the 2nd spot with this deck list. Pretty much exactly the same as the other two. One notable energy, which is really good, is the Special Energy Ace Spec Legacy Energy. This is a very good Special Energy card. But yeah, all the other decks were also running it. And honestly, with the Stellar Crown deck, I still think the V-Star Lugia deck type is going to be so strong. Putting in things like maybe 2 Bouffalints to then also reduce 60 damage on all your colorless Pokemon might make V-Star Lugia even more powerful, but that's in a future video. Now let's go check out the number 1 spot with Henry Chow from US and their Gardevoir EX deck, which focuses on evolving your routes straight into your Gardevoir EX with things like Rare Candy, or, you know, going into Kirlia and then into Gardevoir, or using your Technical Machine and then evolve things in your bench. Pretty much what you want to do is get your Gardevoir EX, right? Because the strategy revolves around its ability, Psychic Embrace, which lets you attach psychic energy from your discard pile to your Pokemon, fueling powerful attacks. You can give it to things like your Drifloon, your Screamtail, your Monkey Dory if you want to, or even Gardevoir EX itself, since they're going to be your main attackers, who all have moves that do damage depending on how much damage counters they have. For example, if you have your Drifloon here with their Balloon Blast, this attack does 30 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. Throw in things like your Bravery Charm, which gives this Pokemon an additional 50 HP. You can tack on a bunch of damage counters to then deal massive damage. I think up to like maybe even 240, if not more. And then your other cards like your Monkey Dory that allow you to take damage counters from your Pokemon and then place them on your opponent's Pokemon is a pretty powerful move. And just having the option to like mitigate your damage across the board while still afflicting your opponent's benched Pokemon is a very powerful ability and kind of archetype in this deck, which is why this did very well placing number 1. Shout out to you, Henry, and this Gardevoir EX deck list. But there you guys have it. That is the top 8 winning decks from the Baltimore's Regionals. This is just yesterday, I believe. And I can't wait to see what different types of decks and meta decks come out once Stellar Crown becomes legal on the 27th. But yeah, there you guys have it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Which of these decks are your favorite? Which one are you surprised at? And which one are you not surprised at? Let me know in the comments down below. Consider subscribing for more meta breakdowns like this for Pokemon TCG, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.